When the whole world is running towards a cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. What is going on, everybody? My name is Logan, and welcome back to the Conservation Project, the podcast for those that still believe in the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that we are still one nation under God. And I am so excited to be back. I have taken a little hiatus. This is actually the second time I've recorded this because I really got it. I have to get a better recording software. I got to do it. But yeah, I took a little bit of hiatus. I'm glad to be back. I'm not really going to get into the details of it. I don't really feel like I need to, but there's two things I want to talk about today. I am, not just because of having to redo this, I actually listened to it all the way through, and it is midnight. And I have felt inspired to talk about this right here, right now, and knowing what I have to say and what I want to say. Hopefully I can be a little bit more concise because I tend to be quite verbose. At least in the sense of I just talk too freaking much. So there is a reason why I started with that C.S. Lewis quote. When the whole world is running towards a cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. I love that quote. I'm going to talk about two main things today. There's 2 points I would like to discuss. I can definitely see where I spoke too much into certain things on the first take of this. So, you know what? Let's slim it down. I'm gonna bring this full circle. Hopefully quicker. I don't really have a time frame of how much I'm going to talk, how long I'm going to discuss these things, but there's 2 things that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first one. 2 words: toxic positivity. In my circle, this has been getting a lot of buzz. There's a reason for that. I am not going to mention names. I'm not going to mention locations, anything. But I am a 5th-year senior at my current university. And as I have discussed with friends and family, there was a time where I was genuinely proud of myself for being in the position that I am, getting to this college, doing well enough to get where I'm at, all that good stuff. I had an immense sense of pride to be where I am. However, I don't feel that way anymore. And I know that's kind of a heavy-handed thing to say, but just as a background before I get firmly into this first topic, I am not doing poorly in school. I'm proud of where I am as far as grades and my GPA and everything, and I'm doing well in my classes, and I'm happy on that front. But the bottom line is I have to go out of my way more than a college student who pays as much as you have to should to get help, to ask questions. Asking questions is something that is almost not allowed in this what is now a very liberal college. To give some background, I have had multiple teachers offer me extra credit to go to BLM rallies, to go to gay pride parades. The university has now instituted a raffle for those who give proof of vaccination that they are allowed to get this special parking pass that allows them to park wherever they want at any time of day. The students are also blatantly bribed into, if you prove your vaccination status, you are given a gift card, an Amazon gift card. It's things like this. And you know what? I understand why people push social issues and things they believe in. I will never judge somebody for pushing a social issue if they genuinely, honest to God, believe in it. I if you can back it up and you believe in it, I will never judge another for that. Ever. Ever. However, this is a college. I am here to get an education to prepare me for the real world, quote unquote, as we will get into. And I have teachers who do what I've mentioned, and I have teachers who literally, if I go up to ask them a question, they will not look me in the eyes and they will either grunt at me or just say no. This is not a joke. I want a lot of what I'm going to say, and I found from my first iteration of this, a lot of it sounds like satire, I've realized. I can very much assure you it is not. Which leads us into this first topic, toxic positivity. I'd mentioned it. But as a fifth-year student, I am required to take a, it's basically a little workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop to quote-unquote prepare you for the real world. To prepare you to enter the workforce, what you should be aware of, yada yada. Again, not going to name anybody, but one of the big wigs of the university gave a short little opening speech to prepare for the speakers that would be giving their presentations. What they considered to be subject matter experts about the subjects they were talking about, etc., etc. So, aforementioned bigwig, the first thing he says, and I kid you not, was, "This is the best economy we have seen in years, and it will be no trouble to get a job during COVID." He legitimately said those words, that this is the best economy we have seen in years. And then the very first speakers that get up and give their presentation, the very first thing they say is, can you believe it? This is one of the worst times that we have seen in recent history to attempt to get a job. And then they talk about depression, depression and anxiety, and give some of the most legitimately boilerplate depression, anxiety, like what causes it. And one of them was literally pressure to immediately secure a job, difficulty acclimating to post-college life, identity challenged, / imposter syndrome. Those are things that they say that can cause depression and anxiety to occur in young adults upon completing university. That is not a joke. Here is where we get into the toxic positivity. Ignoring the blatant contradictions, this is where we get into toxic positivity. This is what they spent the most time on. And I'm going to read out your definition, the definition they gave me. And I'm reading this out of their notes. I have the pamphlets, the brochures, all the goodies that they gave us, the notes, who the speakers are and their backgrounds. Obviously not going to talk about any of that, but I'm reading from a picture I took of the PowerPoint, titled Prevention, Avoid Toxic Positivity. Toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how dire or difficult a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. They are literally saying that right there is a bad thing, that maintaining a positive mindset is a bad thing. That no matter how dire or difficult the situation is, maintaining a positive mindset is a bad thing. Now, there is 7 points that they list under that. Examples and things they list under that. I'm going to read off every one of them. And I'm going to circle back around in my thoughts and comments on this. First example, brushing off problems rather than facing them. Number 2, feeling guilty about being sad, angry, or disappointed. Number 3, hiding your true feelings behind feel-good quotes that seem more socially acceptable. Hiding or disguising how you really feel. Number 5, minimizing other people's feelings because they make you uncomfortable. Which I could do an entire podcast about that one line, but I digress. Number 6, shaming other people when they don't have a positive attitude, trying to be stoic or get over painful emotions. That was the last one. These are all things that they consider bad and that they consider to be, quote, toxic positivity. Now, I'm just going to jump in a little thing here. You can go online right now. I found this out today. You can go online and you can actually take a toxic positivity test to see where you fall in that ranking. I will let everybody guess where I fell on that. Kind of hilarious in my opinion. Just going to gloss over that. Anyways, we are now at the point in our society where students who have paid an exorbitant amount of money to be in the position that they are in, to try to better themselves long term, to try to create a life for themselves via this education system, which, regardless of what they tell you, is not for everyone. It is not. Anyways, we are at the point where we're at the point where if something is difficult, it is bad to remain positive. It is bad to have a hopeful outlook. And I can sit here and I can rant and I can ramble and I can complain about how egregiously horrible what they're saying is, about how destitute a world you can make with this kind of outlook. But I'm going to leave it at this. Toxic positivity is, quote, the belief that no matter how dire or difficult a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. That is deemed a problem now. And shaming other people when they don't have a positive attitude is also a problem. They actually said that if you try to convince somebody to stay positive during a tough time in their life, that it is aggressive behavior, that it is improper behavior. I am going to let all of that speak for itself. I would love to sit here and spend the next 25 minutes rambling like I did before, but the bottom line is, this is what this podcast is for. It's about the impacts that things like this have on the average, everyday person. And there's going to be people of all ages that can hear this. So know this. If you are like me and you find yourself in these spots, if you're in university, if you're in high school, college, whatever it may be, and this is the kind of thing that you're getting taught, and you vehemently disagree with it, if you're like one of us, then be the bigger person. I wanted to absolutely publicly rail my university for this absolute trash. I mean, this is just horrible. But I had to settle myself down. And I honestly, I went to my mom. She has always been one to help me reason things like this out. And she is very much like me. Stand up for what's right and fight the good fight. And if you stand on principle, you've done the right thing. But she talked me down on this one. It was very wise. And I think this applies to anybody who would find themselves in this situation, who would find their child in college or in high school in this situation. Affect change where you can. But understand the bigger picture. I could have gone in and I could have caused a scene. But what would that do? Absolutely nothing. Causing a scene rarely does anything. When the whole world is running towards a cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. It's okay to go against the zeitgeist. And this is becoming the zeitgeist. This is becoming the cultural norm. And it's sad. It genuinely disheartens me. But for me, as a fifth-year senior, this is a means to an end. And I am going to affect this change in wherever I can on campus, etc., etc., etc. But always remember to, if you're, as Christian conservatives, it is a overwhelmingly persecuted group. As far as just the average American goes, the hate that we receive is from a social construct perspective. It's rough. There's, I'm going to be, I'm going to display some toxic positivity. Stay strong, stay positive, keep the hope, because we're called for more. And I'm going to get into that here in a few minutes with the second topic, much heavier. And there's a reason I'm delaying on this. I believe you'll see. But stay positive. Stand for the right thing. Keep your head. That's what matters most. And with that, I'm going to segue into the second thing. And I'm going to tell a little story here. And it actually happened today. And this was one of the biggest reasons that it is midnight and I am recording this. So bear with me. I'm going to tell this little story here. This morning, got up bright and early. I told my mother, who is not very tech savvy. She has her moments, but as an overall, she needs details, the nerdy specs, all that kind of stuff. She comes to me. And she wanted to get her phone upgraded today. She has an iPhone. She has a business account. They asked me to help. Okay, absolutely. Happy to help my mother. Know when to give, know when to take. Keep that in mind for the rest of this. The Apple Store is, it's... the Apple Store embodies its own little California right in your local shopping center. It just does. There's no other way of putting it. It just does. So you are not allowed entry without an approved mask, as it so turned out. Now, I have to wear a mask at university because I don't have a choice. I either do it or I get escorted off the campus. There is no in between here. That is just the truth of the matter. Well, the mask that I use is what you see coaches wearing on college football games. The ones with the long straps, the 2-layer mesh. The only reason I wear it is because it's the most comfortable option frankly, it's the most comfortable option that you've got, or at least that I've found. My dad tagged along with us just to get out of the house. It was a nice day. They would not let him in because he had a neck gaiter on. More to that in a minute. We get there before it opens, about 20 minutes before it opens. We were the second people in line. Dad was like, he wasn't interested in coming in. He was only going to come in because I was looking into upgrading my phone as well, on a personal just account. But he and I are on the same phone plan, so he's got the master account. So I was going to have him come in for like 2 minutes, verify, step out. He didn't want to be in. It was a nice day outside. He wanted to sit outside. I don't blame him whatsoever. Plus, not want to deal with wearing masks and all this garbage in a hot indoors. No, I get it. But I can't stand the masks. And there's a lot of people that are like that. But you know what? I don't have a choice with school. And I firmly believe, like I've said before, you vote with your dollar. You vote with your feet. I was not going to go into that store. I don't go into stores that require a mask. The hypocrisy behind all of this is due for another conversation. It's due for another episode. But the bottom line is there was bigger fish to fry. There was a bigger objective that I had to focus on, and that was helping my mother who actually needed my help. Now, my mother, you don't mess with, okay? I will go out of my way and do whatever needs to be done to help and protect my mother. She's done it for me growing up. The least I can do is give it in return. And this was something minor. So I swallowed my ego and I swallowed my pride. And I put on that mask and I went in and I helped her. I was there for 45 minutes. I was talking to a tech, and she was talking to a tech, sitting side by side. And I walked in probably 3 or 4 times. 4 times total, actually, over a 45-minute period, just to get account information from Dad. It was nice outside, so I didn't mind walking outside. I sit behind a desk most days, so standing up, walking around was not a problem to me. It started to pick up about 45 minutes in, and I was heading out for the fourth time to get the final bit of information, and I see this little old man hobbling in, literally hobbling in, and I'm painting this picture for a reason. I'm expounding on this for a reason. Sweet little old man hobbles in with the exact same mask on, and the two security guards at the front have stopped him, would not let him enter because of the mask he was wearing. I was thinking, that's odd. And I was hearing all of this in passing as I was trying to squeeze through the crowd, get out the door. And I was like, wow, that's odd. But I just want to be left alone. That's how I am out in public. Leave me alone. And so I go back in. I sit down next to Mom and continue to talk to him. And I see this security guard hobbling over to me with a mask clutched in his hands. No gloves, by the way, because you would think if this is all about your safety, you would be wearing gloves. The man was very sweaty. I was not going to put his sweaty mask on my face. I don't think that's weird. Sorry. Don't. I was wearing a mask, technically a 2-layered mask. And he said, "You have to put this on." And I did not make a scene. I did not raise my voice. But I sat there. And this was in the back end of the Apple store. It was at the little tech bar. And I told him absolutely not. I have sat here for 45 minutes. And this has not been a problem. I have not offended anybody else. Nobody has said anything. This was not a requirement. So no. I said, yeah, we just called it now. And he turned around and walked off. Because I turned and looked at Mom. I didn't say anything. And it crawled up. It really didn't. I've gotten to the point where I've gotten so numb to people acting like this that this is what you have to expect. But there was a bit of confliction in this, and this is the reason why I felt it so important to bring up, because there's a few points I want to hit home. I was respectful and tactful and diplomatic in the way that I replied to him. I did not go off. I did not make a scene. I stated facts, and honestly, I was watching him the whole time because I've worked security since I was 18 years old. This has been one of my main vocations. I always loved it. The bottom line is that they were legitimately making stuff up on the spot, unapologetically. Now, to a degree, I can sympathize being a security guard in a crappy situation. I have worked events where women were not allowed to bring their purses in because the event manager, the tour manager, would not allow it because they could be used as projectiles, and they said that the event brought in that kind of crowd. So, yeah, telling people that they have to do or can't do something because of rules of an area, if they have the authority to, yeah, it sucks being the guy that has to enforce it, but I can at least sympathize with his position. Now, he handled it wrong. And I feel qualified to say that because I have been a supervisor of security guards. I have ran that before. That was one of my main jobs, especially towards the back end of that. That was my role. It could have been handled better. But what I want to hit home is two things, like I said. One, stand for what you believe. That's what this is all about. When the whole world is running towards a cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. C.S. Lewis hit the nail on the head with that one, especially for times like this. Because I know those two techs that we were talking to thought I was crazy. I'm okay with that. I don't need validation from random people that I see in a store. That's not where my purpose comes from. That's not where my hope and heart comes from. It's just not it. But I will stand up for myself respectfully. Now, to segue into the second part, you have to know how to handle it. There's a lot, and I understand it. There's a lot of people right now who are up in arms. They are pissed off, and they are they're ready to go. They are ready to fight this out. There's people that are legitimately ready to cause scenes, to cause fights. Let me just tell you, that is the wrong way. The people that say violence is not the answer it's wrong. Sometimes violence is the answer. That's just the bottom line. This is not that scenario. Standing for your principles, standing for your convictions is always good. Doing it properly and doing it respectfully is better. And it's more important. You have to understand that there's lines that have to be drawn. And everybody's going to draw their own lines. In this case, it was dealing with security guards that are contracted through Apple, for Apple stores. I said my piece, and I honestly think they would have left me alone. But that was their rules. I said my piece. I was not about to change it. Mom was wrapping up. They really didn't need me. I was done. And so I said my piece. I stood for what I believed in. Mom was done. So I said, I'm going to let you handle this. All she had to do was just finish up some stuff on her end with her account. I said, I'm going to step outside. It was mutual respect. And see, I can get a lot of flack for this because a lot of people say it'll sound contradictory, but it's not. There's a difference between standing my ground, causing a scene, and planting my fanny in that seat and refusing to move. Now, there's time and a place for that. But last time I checked, that was not a sit-in. This wasn't Rosa Parks in the back of a bus, or in the front of the bus, being demanded to move to the back. This wasn't that. They were making up rules on the spot. I was prepared to follow their rules as they had stated. Now, they wanted to change and single me out. That was where I stood. Mom was almost done. She was good to go. She was safe. I followed the rules. I continued to follow the rules, and so I stepped out. I didn't make a scene. Didn't say anything. Stepped out and sat on the bench right next to my father. Let her do her thing. That is the second point I really want to hit home, because it's not always about blatant rule breaking. Sometimes, standing up for what is right, it involves a bit of a controversial or a contentious nature. And it's difficult, and it makes some people very uncomfortable, and understandably so. The bottom line is you have to stand for what you believe, but that doesn't mean that you have to belittle those that believe differently. You have to understand their side of things. That's why I've always said, if somebody genuinely believes something and they are willing to back it up, absolutely. I may disagree with you, but I can respect you till the day I die for that. If you were that kind of person, absolutely. Agreeing to disagree is a lost art in our society. And at the end of the day, the man was doing his job. I've been in that position, and it sucks. It sucks. And I'm not going to berate the guy. He was doing his job. He was doing it poorly. But I'm not here to speak on the quality of the work. I'm here to speak on standing up for what is right. I'm going to end with this little story. This is my birthday week, and I was given tickets to go see one of my favorite artists. Music has always been something that spoke to me. I don't idolize artists or anything like that. But this one has always had a very impactful role musically in my life, especially during some bad times. And we were supposed to go last Thursday, And then 2 days before, the concert venue sent out a memo that they were now requiring vaccination, proof of vaccination to get into the outdoor amphitheater, I might add. And it was either proof of vaccination or a legit test. You had to show a negative COVID test, and they had a link for what they certified as far as what you could bring in and prove that you were safe, yada, yada. The tests were worth more than the tickets were. And honestly, it wasn't about the money because it was my girlfriend and I were going to go. And she and I are very similar. And especially in this kind of role, in this kind of thing. And I have spent a lot of time talking to friends, talking to family about the stuff going on with these vaccination requirements. And it's not about the vaccination. It's about being forced to do something that is nobody's business but yours. And we'll get into the deep roots of this conversation in another episode. That's not what this is about. But I realized something. I had at one point considered saying, screw it, let's get the test. I was excited. It meant a lot to me that I was given this opportunity, especially with who I was going with. It was a big deal for me. And I really did. I considered saying, screw it, let's just get the test and let's go anyways. And then I realized something. Everything that I'm saying here, everything I've said in the previous episodes, everything that I've said to my friends, to my loved ones, to my family, would have immediately been null and void because I was considering being prepared to give all of my convictions up about this for 2 to 3 hours of a concert. I was prepared to give up the same thing that I've been talking to friends who are in this actual position where if they don't get it, they lose their job. And I've said if I was in that position, I would lose my job. I would not bend to it because I can sleep at night with no job. I can't sleep at night with no morals. I can't do that. And then it really clicked. You know, this word that we read, the scripture that we read, the thing that this entire podcast has its core rooted in, has a lot of accounts of a lot of persecution of Christians. The Bible does. And I realized that if I was willing to give it up on something small, like a concert, to not stand for my convictions, to go to a concert, but I had been talking about, if it hits for a job, I'll give up the job. I would give up on something so little, so menial, so small. What would happen if I was actually persecuted in the same way as what's in the Bible? What we are told has happened, can happen, will happen. Christians are persecuted every day throughout the world. And it's becoming more and more a thing in our society. Christians are looked down upon. So if I give up on something small, I'm going to give up on something huge. Where it really matters. Where it's not whether or not I'll have a good time for a couple hours. It's my actual convictions that I stand my day-to-day, my faith, and my post-death on. And I cannot be willing to give that up for something so small. So we didn't go. We refunded the tickets. And didn't make a scene. Wasn't necessary. Always stand for your convictions. That doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way to be violent. There's a time and a place. But the biggest change that we can enact is doing this the right way. Standing for what you believe the right way. Backing it up with fact, with truth, with faith. Not with yelling and shouting and anger and violence. Like I said, whoever said that violence is not the answer was out of their mind. Because sometimes it is, but right now it isn't. It just isn't. So I'm going to wrap up on this. I love that Albert Einstein said the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch without doing anything. I love that. And I feel like this applies here. But I'm gonna wrap up on this. Joshua 1:9, reading from ESV. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Look it up. Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Don't let fear control your lives. You know how to do things the right way. You know how to be the bigger man. You were taught it as a kid. I think we all were. I think this wonderful Bible that we read also taught us that. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed. If they can instill fear, they can instill control. Joshua 1:9. Look it up. That's all I got. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Let me rant for 40 minutes. I've enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to the coming episodes. I'm looking forward to getting back on track, getting back into this. Do yourself a favor. Get off of social media sometimes. Get your head out of the news. It's one of the biggest reasons why I had to take some time. I had overwhelmed myself with the negativity of what was going on. So I'm going to be displaying some toxic positivity here. Keep your head up. It's not all bad. Toxic positivity. It's ridiculous. Anyways, thank you guys. My name's Logan. This is the Conservation Project, the podcast for those that still believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that we are still one nation under God. I'm looking forward to the next episodes. We got some cool stuff coming. Thanks for hanging out, y'all.